excuses, noting that over 150 security personnel have been deployed within the market and that security has largely been restored across the state. Soludo said the one-week market closure, though painful, was necessary to protect Anambra's collective prosperity. He added that the government is enforcing the law, implementing a new master plan for the market, and pursuing amnesty initiatives, dialogue with agitators, and other measures to end the sit-at-home order and reassure investors of a full business week. What do you make of this development in Anambra State right now?
Well, you see, when you see a thinking leader, a leader that understands system of government, you can easily identify, because the truth is, when people make that statement and say there's a sit-at-home order, the question now comes, who gave the order? And in law and government, an authority that gives an order that is obeyed by the state is the authority in charge of that particular state or that environment. So what it would therefore mean is that there's a body bigger than the government. So if I can give a sit-at-home order, that means that authority could also give several orders. It could give an attack social person's order. It could give a shutdown the government order. That is what it implies. So what Soludo is doing in this case is asserting his authority, the authority that he has and he shares and enjoys as governor of a state. And Soludo is a man from the business or he understands how economy and business, in that regard runs. So what he is trying to do is be in charge of, he wants to be in charge of that particular, control, economic control of the state. Because you cannot be, he mentioned something, he said it's like they are reordering,
the economic calendar of the state.
And it's true, because, all around the world, weekends are usually a recess period for whether business or families. So what you expect is that Monday is when the week starts to count officially. So if you come and say Mondays people do not, it affects a lot of things. It affects the sequence of things. It affects the pattern, the procedures of how government is run. So I think what Soludo is doing is, trying to restore sanity to Anambra State, and it's a good one. It's a good one. I understand that a lot of sentiments around why the sit-at-home order was given in the first place, but then the people should also have to understand that there are things that are moved by sentiment or controlled by sentiment, while there are other things that are controlled by laws, by systems, by governance, and this is where they should come, to an understanding with the governor now. Yeah, why we have an initial essence for this sit-at-home right now. If the governor, who is responsible for security of the state, is saying, I am providing you the security, because one of the reasons why they say the sit-at-home was being observed was because of fear of security, that they might be attacked by the so-called enforcers of IPOB. But he is saying, I have provided security, I have provided enough security around the market, and I'm also doing other things that would help the market grow as one of the biggest markets in Africa. He's saying, I am going to be responsible for my own duty, for my own role as government.
Now, one would say, in the past, has he been responsible for his own duty and his own role? Yeah. I mean, states in the southeast have shown, if we are to go by that, by Governor Soludo's statement, a lot is left to be desired. Now, because I'm saying this from experience, and it has been all over the news, there was a certain time the governor said, oh, there is no longer sit-at-home, even Enugu state government as well. Oh, there is no longer sit-at-home and all that. And that Monday, parents released their children to go to school, teachers went to teach, and the enforcers came to the school, flogged these teachers, videoed it. The teachers were literally begging for their lives, flogged some of the students, the ones that were old enough to understand what was going on, flogged them, flogged the teachers out of the school. Where was the government and the security at that time? People have gone to markets, and there have been shootouts in markets enforcing the sit-at-home, and in all that, the number of hours that shootout happened in the market, forcing people back home. there was no government intervention. There was no security intervention. In the markets, people have lost their goods. People have been injured by the same enforcers. Where was government protection? So now the government was quick to say, no, do not obey the sit-at-home order. Go to the markets, but had no iota of protection for the people that obeyed government order. Now, having been traumatized with government's lack of ability to protect them over the years, suddenly the government is trying to use force to enforce it. Now, the question would be, like, I have been following this all through social media and all of that. Now, the question on the lips of people, which I am also asking, is this: is it to shut down the market, or to ensure that the people that even attempted to go to market that day, they are protected, and even when they end up going home, there is no reprisal attack? So it's one thing for the government to say this is what is going to happen, and the government to actually protect the lives of its citizens. Because now you're talking about Soludo as the chief security officer in the state. So far, has he been able to secure the lives and properties of those who actually defied the sit-at-home order?
Well, okay, so, the thing with governance, when I started, I said, when you see someone understand government and, governance in terms of policy, when they take decisions, if you're discerning enough, you would understand this is the direction this person is going. Now, I cannot for a fact say, yes, the governor as a chief security officer has provided adequate security for both commuters and, of course, businessmen and women alike in Anambra State. But then one thing that is happening is for every action there are consequences. And he has mentioned, just like you read, and as I also heard in the press statement, that the government is willing and is intentional about ensuring security, for the people in that international market. Now, this is not, what you brought about is, the issue about schools and all of this, which are
also the market as well.
Yes. So what I'm saying here is this, these things do not happen outside the people. That's the truth. Whatever you see happening in terms of retaliation, in terms of, enforcers, in quotes, these people are from within. Right now, these same persons are also suffering from the shutdown of the market, because they are also, majority of them are also market people. Most of them that do the enforcement sometimes are within the market, So, but right now, the market being shut, what Soludo is trying to tell them is, look, if you're stopping my own aspect, as a government, I'm responsible for the regulation of economic activities. And I'm saying that your own order is affecting my own responsibility from yielding results. Because when you shut down the market for one day, this is how much the government loses. If I also have a legitimate right to declare an order and see how much you're losing because I declared an order. The same way the so-called enforcers have the order or the authority to declare an order. Soludo is, and it is important, because where there's no order, there's, comes forward is anarchy. So what Soludo is doing as a government, not as an individual, is letting them know, I also have authority. So while I respect your, whatever you're fighting for, you should respect mine too, where you're on. So I'm coming. So what I'm saying is, what Soludo is saying, is that I am an authority also, and this is what I think, and this thing you're doing is affecting my own job negatively. And if I shut down the market, which I have, because I have the authority, if I shut down the market, now which loss is worse? The government shutting down the market, or the people, because look, if the people insist and say, no, you can't, there's no way that whoever enforces, because they are still within these people, will come and say, we are going to enforce this without being apprehended and all of that. I remember growing up in town, when we had the issues of court clashes and all of that. Nobody that stays in town at that time can come out and say, I do not know. I cannot point out the people. There were people within us that were causing the chaos, that were joining the cultists and all of that. But because we did not have authority, we could not do anything about it. But this is different, because you have somebody that also has an authority saying, look, I have authority the same way you think you have. In short, I have more than you. I'm more legitimate. If I do what you're doing as a government, you would not survive. You know. So what he is saying is that fight whatever cause you want to fight, but do not make the entirety of the state suffer. You mentioned how students went to school and teachers were flogged. How does that make sense? How does stopping education, people from going to school, foster any cause that anybody is fighting? As far as I'm concerned, it is completely clandestine and unreasonable.
Right.
You know, so big government at this point need to be responsible. Just like you mentioned, have they done enough in security? This is where the question now, you know, this is where we talk about accountability. The people now need to come out and say, the other day we had this issue, you did not protect us. This is the argument that I expect from the people of Anambra State. I am not hearing this argument. I'm hearing
now,
that from
if you're saying the people of Anambra State, now let's look at the position of the people, because you have spoken about the position of the government. Let's look at the position of the people. You cannot deny the fact that Nnamdi Kanu is a movement. Nnamdi Kanu is way beyond an individual right now. He is an idea. The Biafra movement is a movement, is an ideology. You can kill the people. Can you kill a movement? You can kill the people. Can you kill an ideology? You see where the problem is coming from. It's deeper than meets the eye. Now, the people whom the governor, let's just say, okay, the people, the Anambra State economy loses, the governor was saying they lose 9 billion naira every Monday, correct? Because of the shutdown. Now, who are the people generating this money? The people protesting. And they are saying that 9 billion, we don't want to make it on Mondays. I need you to understand this.
No, I think that's, sorry.
Hold on, you will still have your say.
Okay.
I am coming from the angle of the people. They are protesting against the closure of the market. And the governor closed the market because he lifted the stay-at-home order and the people defied him. And they refused to go to markets on Monday. And in reaction to their refusal to go to market on Monday, the governor shut down the market, which led to the protest that we see ongoing. So basically, the people are saying, we do not want to follow your order.
No, I don't think you're 100% correct.
You will still have your say, but I just want to lay background because you are talking of IPOB here. You're talking of sit at home. And Anambra State is the seat of IPOB. In fact, it's fanatical at this point in time. Won't one be looking at the government towing a different approach that is not aggressive, more like engaging the people? Because if it is an issue of ideology, you have to conquer that ideology with a superior ideology, probably through communication, through radio broadcast, through jingles, right? Engage social media influencers within that state to educate them on the economic disadvantage of the sit-at-home, on the disadvantage to the growth and education of their children. When that engagement is done from there, you now see people begin to have conversations within themselves that actually this is not working, actually this, actually that. But when you come and the government is taking this approach that is aggressive against what one would consider to be an ideology, how do you see this panning out and not escalating beyond what it has already gone right now? That is my concern and the area I'm looking at.
Well, I think we should go back, take a few steps backwards to the source of all this conversation and the problem. You said the people are protesting, and that's the reason for the sit-at-home. That is, I'm sure you know, it's not completely true, because the
I didn't say they were protesting because of the sit-at-home.
No, I'm saying
they are protesting the closure of the market, which the government
No, I'm saying that's why I said we should go back a bit.
Yes.
The reason for the sit-at-home in the first was not because the people were protesting against or for Nnamdi Kanu. That was not the reason. The reason for the sit-at-home was the order was given by IPOB, right? And then the used fear and intimidation.
What was the reason for the sit-at-home?
No, I'm coming. I'm saying the reason the market was shut down was the people were scared. IPOB, as far as government Nigeria is concerned, is not a legal authority.
It's a terrorist organization.
Exactly. They do not have the legal authority to shut down any place in Nigeria. Now, I'm speaking legally because the governor is acting in his capacity as a governor of the state. And the people now, because of the fear, because when they first declared it, some persons resisted. And then that's when the enforcers then came on and they started sending people to go and enforce, that you must sit at home, you must sit at home. The fear, just like you mentioned, flogging people, flogging adults for going to perform their responsibility. Because of that, you put fear in them. So that fear is what, fear of being harmed, encourage them or force them to, follow the order. Now I'm saying, as a state collectively, he has mentioned that through dialogue. I listened to the head of market in the Onitsha International Market talking, and he made it also press conference. He pleaded, said the governor should that open the market, that they are going to, that people are going to come together and the market will be open. He made that. While some persons are protesting. So when you say they are protesting, it isn't everybody that is protesting. I understand because there's an ideology, in Nnamdi Kanu. There's an ideology he pushes.
What was the reason for the sit at home?
The reason for the sit at home is that Nnamdi Kanu should be released. That's the reason. And they declared that until he is released,
that they will continue sitting at home.
IPOB said that, not the people of Anambra. I asked somebody this question, and I think I want this question answered. The IPOB and the Igbo man, who is more superior? The idea of the indigenous people of Biafra and the idea of the Igbo man. When I say man, of course, I mean man, woman, generally. Who or which is more superior? IPOB or not, the Igbo man will remain an Igbo man. The Igbo man still maintains that class, that culture, that heritage that represents the average Igbo man. And I am saying that an action of an arm of a people because of an idea of something that they want is not superior to the people itself. Now, you can have a struggle and you can have the people in that struggle. When Nelson Mandela was fighting, the apartheid in South Africa, it did not end at just because he was fighting. Yes, Nelson Mandela was an idea, was a struggle idea, but you still had the people of South Africa, which, of course, they benefited from the struggles of Nelson Mandela. The Ogoni people today, the same thing. Ken Saro-Wiwa has died, but the idea still moves on. They shut down oil in Ogoni land. Yes, of course, for government to do that, they have to negotiate. So I'm saying you cannot completely separate, say no, because the IPOB has given an order. That is an order, good and fine. But I'm saying, because of what we're discussing, why the governor is doing what he's doing. The governor is not an IPOB governor. It's not a Biafran governor, at least not for now. He's a Nigerian Anambra governor. So if you must occupy that position, you must act as one. And he is saying, you're making me look bad at my job. You're making me not able to perform my duty. Can you find a different way of pushing this struggle and not making the people of Anambra State lose the amount of money they are losing? So, like I said when I started this is about government order in a society. Until we have a legitimate Biafra, and we know that whoever is governor is a governor in Biafra. Until we have that, we must function within the ambit of the law that governs us as a people. And that is what I believe Soludo is doing as a governor, not as a superior Igbo man, because he is not. He's just doing that as a governor. So what I'm going to say as my own opinion is that there should be just like you mentioned, if the people are saying legitimately, this is why we shut down this market, because there are people that will come and enforce this order that was given. You are saying we should open. Why should we listen to you? Why is you will not prove why your order is superior to the order of IPOB? If eventually IPOB proves superiority over Soludo's order, then we can agree that everybody should open.
One thing needs to be also considered in this whole conversation, and that's the fact that protest is a legal right under the Constitution. So now, people can choose to protest as long as they are not breaking the law, they are not committing crime, they are not destroying lives and properties. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria gives Nigerians the right to protest. Now, if a set of region or a set of people, whether they are the generality of Igbos or majority of Igbos or minority of Igbos, whichever way you look at it, choose to protest peacefully by staying back in their homes this time around, do not forget that the time that IPOB people were, marching the streets peacefully, they were accused of different types of violence. And they said, we will not march again. Everybody stay in your house on Mondays. Right? It is still their right to protest. Then when you look at it again, freedom of choice, they have the right to buy and sell. I can choose. Catholics, for example, how come there is no law banning, I say Good Friday or certain ceremonies where certain churches do not go to market? Or you see the Muslims, for example, on Fridays, they shut down at a particular hour and everybody heads to mosque. And that's work day, right? Why don't we have those laws banning them? Because that is their right to exercise what they want to exercise. Hold on. Now, in terms of buying and selling, it is their shop. They pay their shop rent, right? The government has not come out to say they are defaulting in payment of shop rents. The government has not it's not coming out to say, oh, that they have destroyed so and so. They say the government is saying that the government is losing money.
Because they are shutting down the market.
Because they choose not to buy and sell on that day in protest for one thing. And again, the protest is their constitutional right. It is their constitutional right to protest. The governor, what the governor can do, is it by shutting the market or say, oh, if you're not making use of your shop, we have the right. Probably the government will have to build a market and tell people if you...
The market was built by the government.
Hold on, but sold right now. It's privatized.
No.
Hold on. Ariaria market, for example. I'm saying this because I have shops in Ariaria. Ariaria market, for example, government built the market, but I own shops there, right? So now the government suddenly wakes up one morning to revoke my own shop.
You know the Land Use Act?
Yes, the Land Use Act, that's contestable, unless maybe Soludo has also said that he's going to demolish the entire market and start building. That is also contestable. But the point here, at the end of the day, is they are protesting, and it is their constitutional right to protest, regardless of whether the government feels. Now, that's the reason for protest. The reason for protest is to put pressure on the government to address whatever it is that is penning them. Now, that is why I said, is it the governor to go the aggressive route or to go the route of dialogue? In this instance, he is dealing with an ideology, and people are willing to die for this. People are willing to lay down their lives. So when you say the people, and if you see the videos of the times that they were enforcing, let's say the market has numerical strength of 1,000. People that went on that day were not even up to 100. People that went on that day and made the enforcers were not up to 100. So where are the remaining 900 willingly sat at home in that protest? So when you go to these rural areas, when you go to villages and places like Anambra State, like I said, is the seat. Anambra State is the seat of IPOB. So it might be easier in Abia State than Anambra State. Don't you think dialogue in this instance is what will work? Because my concern is this whole thing escalating into loss of lives.
You know, this did not start today. I'm certain it didn't start today. Off air we're discussing about somebody that, one of the person that usually invite as a guest. And after several defaulting and warnings, people took a drastic measure.
Of course.
By, what you did to ensure that breaking of law does not repeat in your station. Now, you did that because you felt you needed to show that I control, because whatever would happen, the NBC would come for you. So you know that the consequences, you would face it. So because of that, you use the authority that you have to also exert on that person to say, look, don't come on my platform and cause trouble for me. Now, was that violent? No. It was a necessary step that you took, to ensure that you do not face consequences of the actions of someone else. Let's take it back to Anambra State. The governor is saying this is an international market. This is a government market as far as the law is concerned. And you shutting down, if you decide not to sell, this but there was a time I was coming back. I went to Delta State and we're coming back. It was a Monday. And we won severally, but because of, we had security, I wasn't alone. So that was what gave the courage. And I thought in my head that I was going to the market. Then when we got close, and I remembered, Oga, you can't. In the market, they actually locked the market, on that day. Why? Because initially when it started, some persons would come and open, and then the market, the people would come and beat them and say, no, you cannot open. So it now became a sacrilege to open your business. Now, it wasn't, they did not give the people their right to decide to protest or not. It was enforced. Now, by who is the question? By an authority that is not recognized. Now, I want us to be careful with what should. That's why I'm being, particular about explaining what I understand what Sododo is doing. It's exciting that I am an authority that should be respected. It's not necessarily him fighting against the ideology. I don't think Sododo is fighting against the ideology.
When Niger Delta agitators started, they started with kidnapping of white men, bombing of pipelines, crippling down Nigeria's economy. At some point, the Nigerian government called for a dialogue. An amnesty was given.
No, this is
no. Hold on.
I think
this
is quite completely different.
Hold on, it's not.
No, it is completely
because
different.
In this instance, in Niger Delta, blood was spilled. Nigerian economy, and that's mono economy.
Did the government of the state fight against these people?
It was sabotaged, but the government listened and called for a dialogue. In the case of Sarowiwa, at some point, when you read the history of the Ogoni people, the Nigerian passports, the people listening to me can go and do some Ogoni people. Well, I study history a lot, but then the Nigerian government prepared Nigerian passport for Ken Sarowiwa, sent him abroad. I think that should be under Babangida. I think it was under Babangida. Sent him abroad to go and study how the white people were handling their own oil. Sarowiwa went abroad and declared press conference. That story for another day, which led to a stall in that conversation before much later it started again. But the thing is this, at some point, these conversations were had. Right
so are you
now,
saying,
in the instance of Anambra State Governor has been very vocal with regards to IPOB. Anambra State Governor has been very clear with his non-support of the IPOB, which I can understand because, like you said, he is a Nigerian governor and not a Biafran governor. However, one would expect that with regards to this, like I said, don't forget that the same Soludo and even prior governors have, lifted that sit-at-home ban. And few people came out in trust that the government would protect them, and the government failed them over and over and over. That trust deficit is there and has not been handled or addressed by this government. It has not been addressed. Now, on the other hand, one would expect, like I said, this is emotional for the people, right? You would expect that the government would hold the path of dialogue. When it comes to stuff like ideology and a belief, there are people that are willing to die for Nnamdi Kanu in this country. There are people willing to lay down their lives. Let's just believe, even young people who don't even understand the whole struggle, who never saw the Biafran war, but they are willing to do whatever it takes. Now, it behoves on the government to have a conversation with these the same people. Has the government engaged effectively in a dialogue with these people?
Well, if we
that would be the question.
And to answer this question, if we go by what the governor has said repeatedly, that we are in communication with the leaders of the Anambra. You cannot fault him and say no. He hasn't. I mean,
the market leaders,
the people of Anambra State.
Leaders are different from the people. I hope you know that. You can communicate with the leaders and not communicate with the people.
No. When you communicate with the leader, it is assumed that the leader takes whatever. He was voted and elected by the people. So it is speaking to the leader, because you can't speak to everybody at a time. So
last time I checked, you know, the media and social media itself has, you know, so made communication easy, accessible, and reachable at every point in time. If I go to the Anambra State website, will I see conversations? Hold on, will I see printouts from Anambra State government appealing to the people? Now, you have radio stations that even have calling programs. The government can choose to sponsor literally every radio station in Anambra State for a period of 6 months to a year, where practically every show will have a segment where they discuss this sit at home and begin to disabuse the minds of people. The government can choose to have signposts, signages everywhere that will bring up jingles. The government can do jingles to disabuse the minds of people. When you are indoctrinated, the process of mental emancipation from that indoctrination is not done overnight, and you can be as sure as the oxygen you take in and the carbon dioxide you breathe out, that you can also not do it by force or by aggression.
So by implication, you agree with me?
So how has the government effectively spoken or engaged the Anambra people to disabuse their minds and make them understand that this sit-at-home order right now, we are losing money and you are losing money. And the fact that your children are not going to school is affecting your children. Look at the performance of Anambra State in terms of education. Look at the performance of other states in terms of education. I mean, there are statistics that can be presented.
No. I think you're going about this the wrong way.
All right, go ahead.
Honestly, I think what we should be careful what we're discussing. You know, even I've heard you say it, you know, how you berate government for negotiating with terrorists. We agree that it is an absurd thing to do, you know, that they should be faced head on. That's on that. Secondly, all of these things you're saying, I don't believe the government of Anambra State. You mentioned Soludo has been emphatic, has been clear about his stance on the approach of the IPOB. You know, all of these conversations you're saying, he came out, did a press release, and said, we are already doing this. He has come to the press to say, he is doing this, the government is doing this. The market leader of the International Market also came up and said, we're talking with the government that the governor should please stop the closing of the shop for 1 week, that the market they will come and they will do. So he has said that, that's the leader of the market. I said, we are going to open. Your Excellency, please stop, you know, shutting down the shop. Let us have it. So that I said, after this 1 week, there are measures drastic measures, you know, that should be taken at drastic time, and this is one of them. So for me, I think the message is not about the conversation of the idea around Biafra. I don't think the conversation is around that. I don't think we argue that the idea of Biafra is not necessary. Nobody, or let me speak for myself. I believe it's a legitimate or it's a legit idea that resonates from the people, you know, due to the lack of balance in terms of, you know, the structure of the Nigerian government or how the Nigerian is being run. You know, some persons are left behind while some other persons, you know, seem to be getting everything. So we understand the reason and essence for the agitation, and that is not in contention. What we're talking about is the market. The Anambra people, you know, if they make progress now, it is still the Anambra man that believes in Biafra that is making progress. If the Anambra man suffers, it is still the Anambra man that still believes in Biafra or not, still benefiting. So the essence and the point of this conversation is that whatever order and measure that is being taken by this order is not benefiting our people. You have said it here. Tell the school people, this is reason, this is absurd. You cannot rearrange your calendar. This is, I remember during, I said 2 years ago, when they were writing WAEC, on Monday they had the paper. They went and chased children from the halls. Imagine the number of persons that failed that exam. And
the question will be,
that, I'm coming.
Where is the government?
That is the point. So your argument shouldn't be that the government should not enforce or try to organize and make sure there's order in the place. The question should be, government should ensure that people are protected. The question should not be about people protesting. How can you protest about not being allowed to infringe on the right of others and also infringe in the policy or the entire society? That is what the protest, not the citizens. I'm saying the people protesting against. So if it was free will and say the governor provides enough security, and if you want to go and open, you can open, no, but some of us, we are not going to open. I don't think then the governor would have shut down the market. But it is because they are enforcing and they are saying nobody, the market, they lock the market during Mondays because of, yes, fear of, you know, them being harassed. So yes, if the argument is that the government must protect the people against any person that wants to perpetrate any act of violence against the people, against their fundamental human rights, because there are people that want to open and go and sell. There are people that believe in the struggle but do not feel they should lock their shop. Do they have are they given their rights to open or not? No, their right is also being infringed on. So this is what the governor is saying. Do not infringe on the right of Indian Anambra because you have an ideology that you're chasing.
The governor is not speaking from the angle of infringement. That's the interesting conversation.
No, the governor represents the people.
No, the government is speaking from the angle of economic gain.
The economic gain?
The government is speaking from the angle of economic gain. Okay. Not from the angle. You now are speaking from the angle of fundamental infringement of fundamental human rights on the people who probably believe in the struggle but do not want to sit at home. That is a different conversation. But when you're making this statement and alluding it to Governor Soludo, I would want to periscope that closely, because in every statement that the governor has made so far, the case of fundamental human rights has not come in, not once. I do not remember Governor Soludo. I only mentioned I do not remember Governor Soludo talking about infringement.
No.
That the reason why he's enforcing this.
I did not say
he only said, and what he has been repeating so far, over and over and over and over again, is how it's affecting the economy. Interestingly again, the governor never said at any point, he never looked at how it's affecting education.
No, but he did.
Of the child.
He did.
He was much more vocal about the market, because that's where they are generating money at the end of the day. So I am looking at the hypocrisy of the government, because if you are enforcing this, you should enforce that. I should have expected that by now, prior to the shutting down of this market or insisting, the sit-at-home order that is pending the governor is coming from the market and the money he's losing. If probably prior to the issue of the market, you see the governor, making sure that, there is heavy security in schools, especially government-owned schools, or even schools that are both government-owned and also have license to operate, making sure that these schools are properly secured. Teachers go to school, students go to school, there are no attacks, parents can go and pick up their children, there will be no attack, and even after school is done, on their way back home, no attacks, everywhere is peaceful. When had it been the governor started from there, and the people stand up to protest, then I will be questioning the people and what they intend to achieve. Because now this has to do with the life of their own children, the future of their own children. But Anambra State government in this instance does not care about that, which is the future of Anambra people. But the government is particularly concerned about economy. You see, that is when you talk about leadership and rulership, there is a difference. And I'm not going to sit here and applaud what I don't understand, because if I am a leader, or to be in the position of Governor Soludo, my major concern will be, first of all, security of my people. Two, to make sure that children go to school. Knowing the nature of Anambra State during WAEC, I will make sure that the security in the state for the children is so tight that nobody, and that is when he does these things, people will now, that trust deficit will be diminished greatly. People will begin to trust him that this governor have our interest at heart. And then you can have that conversation, and people, when you tell them go to markets, they willingly. Mind you, Igbo men love money. They love money. But what is the guarantee?
Security.
That when they obey you to go and generate that fund for you, their lives will be intact, their heads will be on their neck at the end of the day. So when we are looking at, the governor is this, what is this? Is this not about money at the end of the day for the government? Is it about the people? Is it about the welfare of the people? Because if you are looking about the welfare of the people, then the government, to a large extent, would have been more concerned about the education sector. And then from there, and not just the education sector, Victor, do we talk about the people who die during this sit at home because they cannot access medical facilities? The fact that anybody, any nurse that goes home at night cannot resume the next day. Do we look at how it has affected the lives of Anambra people in accessing healthcare? People cannot quickly run during emergency. Probably someone has an asthma attack, and somebody cannot rush and get a pharmacy to buy, inhaler for that person. The government is not bothered about these areas that directly affect the masses. That when you fight for the benefit of the masses, the people will now see that this is about them and their benefits. Then you see the people rise against that sit at home and support the government. But the government does not care about their health during sit at home. The government is not looking at their education during sit at home. But the government is more interested in the market because they are losing 9 billion naira. Why is the humanity in governance? This is the angle I'm looking at. And that's why I'm saying, even if they choose to sit at home on that day, it's their right. However, in education is a right in this country. Denying them that, if the government is coming from that angle, I will understand, because I'm a parent. And I wouldn't stand by any law that will infringe on my daughter's right to education and her future. So if you look at it from this angle, would you say the government is being fair?
Well, the thing is, unfortunately, we've had a large and high distrust in the intentions of government over the years. So I can understand, where the people do not trust, when government comes and make promises. Just like you mentioned, you come and say, I should go out. And then you do not give me adequate security. When one or two persons attempt to go out, they come back with a sad story. So that does not encourage anybody. So I understand that over the years we've had, the disconnect, between the spoken words of politicians and people in government and their actions. And that alone, causes disbelief. So when the governor comes and says, like he mentioned, and that is where my point is coming from, I think we should hold the government accountable, because it is still in the failure of government to treat the people, with equity that caused this whole Biafra struggle in the first place. So you see that at the long run, it is still the failure of governance that even originated all of this. So basically, I'm saying what we agree now is that government needs to be more responsible.
Exactly.
In what they're doing. Sometimes it's not just exerting your orders, but you need people to see. You can't tell people jump and they are seeing a hole, you're saying jump, don't worry, I'm government. No, your government doesn't make a bridge.
It doesn't cover that hole.
Do the bridge and then say cross, then I would. So what government most times, people in leadership, have been doing repeatedly is they tell you, don't worry, go, I am government. And unfortunately, the fact that your government doesn't ensure my security, what ensures my government is the fact that you perform your duty as a government. And of course, the major function of government is protect life and property first, because if there are no lives, then there's nothing for you to govern. So I can understand the distrust, from the people, and just like as you've, noted, that look, the government needs to find a way to genuinely win the people over in terms of the idea of a safe environment before you start enforcing. I understand that.
It would be easier to enforce that way.
I understand that, and that is why I started this comment by saying I'm looking at the angle Soludo is coming from. Yeah, you want for Soludo, I believe this is more about authority. It's about showing that I am the governor. It might not, just like you said, the emphasis has not been more on the people and certain things, but to show that I am the governor. I mean, if you look at some of his decisions over the recent time, you see that they are focused on and emphasizing on authority, both the cultural one, the native doctors, I think recent past, the masquerade and all of that. So yes, you see that. So that's why I said the angle I'm coming from. I say I'm looking at it why Soludo is doing what he's doing. It's not. I've not analyzed the other aspect, because I feel from my analysis, what Soludo is more concerned about is authority, is showing that he has the authority as governor. And then I agree with you that it doesn't stop at, having the authority, because your authority is empty without the people. The people are the reason that power is given to you. And if the people are not carried along, then who are you going to showcase your power? So I agree with you that the governor, there's a distrust, from the people, but I also understand,
the part of the government.
Well. And I also agree that the government should, marry these ideas, this concept. You cannot just tell and force, because that's like you've mentioned, several times, that is an ideology. You don't kill an ideology with violence. Violence only fuels the ideology. So what you do is you set a round table. But now I also know that doesn't work. I hope that after this 1 week, that he'll be able to have several series of engagement with the people, of Anambra State, just like you mentioned, to educate them and tell them this is why this thing is not good. We as a people, we need to fight against it, because the fight should not be just his fight. It should be the people convinced,
on their own, they should be like, enough is enough. They are now the ones that will now point out to the government where the enforcers live and who they are.
So I believe government, should not just do what Soludo is doing, which I do not. For me, I'm not looking at it as with the periscope of right or wrong. I'm looking at it from the angle of why I think he's doing what he's doing. But it will be sensible for him to also, in addition to what he's doing, which is necessary, because where there's no order, there's anarchy, and anarchy leads to chaos and all of that. So what he should do, the government should, reassure the people, have continuous engagement with the people, so that they don't just see it as, yes, I know there are a lot of people that are intentionally, willingly sitting at home, but there are also other persons that
actually do want to go to market.
But if they are not safe, if their right to freedom of movement is not guaranteed by way of security, it's going to be difficult to convince them that they should go and open. So I think the government should engage, constructively with the people to ensure that the security and lives of the people are protected, while you also, try to understand the reason for certain decisions and try to say as a government, make the people and come to an understanding. You cannot win everybody over. But if a majority of the people agree that we have to grow, agree that, look, we have to come to a compromise for our own good, because the reason for the fight is assumed is also for the good of the people. So if somebody or a group of people within a people are not taking a decision that is affecting us, then what's the essence of the fight? So it still needs to resonate from the people, to ensure that both government and the people, have a serious correction and connection,
come together.
Yes, to move ahead.
Just like I love the balance that you brought into this conversation at the end of the day, because, when you look at the government, you also look at the pains of the people. And for me, one would say to a large extent, in this is a very sensitive matter that must be, handled with delicate, a lot of wisdom and diplomacy. And one would expect that in this instance, honestly, if the governor have sensible people, if I will use that word, people who are people-oriented, advising him, the governor should de-emphasize the markets and the loss of money in terms of economy, and look at a more people-oriented fight, like looking at education sector and health sector and how the sit-at-home has affected the lives of Anambra people who have emergencies during the sit-at-home and the children who are unable to go to school. I mean, when these conversations will start, sponsor these conversations across media platforms, across radio platforms, you will see people who probably have lost a relative or two during the course of this sit-at-home come out to speak. You pick them up, engage them, and these are the people you turn to a mouthpiece. This is, if you want to win this, the approach has to be very, very different. And when these conversations are ongoing, it triggers memories. People will realize, oh, my daughter performed badly in this, my daughter is going to rewrite WAEC because of this, and there is no guarantee that if she rewrites. In fact, a lot of parents, you will now find out that a lot of parents in Anambra State took their children out of Anambra States to other states to write WAEC. And when you start making these conversations, you open up statistics in Anambra State in terms of health performance, education performance, against other states. Every right-thinking parent will think, right now, because you're touching people where it matters the most, and that is their children. You're touching them where their children. Parents will do anything to protect their children. And when you do that, and you assure them that now there is going to be adequate security, and you ensure that, and, Sunday evening, Anambra people see police mobilizing to different schools, see that heavy security around schools, parents will take their children to school. And you will now see that the same parents will come out now to fight to protect the rights of and you make them understand, your child has this right. Help the government to help you train your children properly. You understand? Help the government to help us, save the lives of our loved ones when they are sick during sit-at-home. You de-emphasize the focus on sit-at-home and emphasize the disadvantages and how it's affecting the people now. Now, the people on their own will see that, yes, we believe in IPOB. We still want to, we still believe in that ideology. However, we don't have to pay dearly.
You mean they believe in Biafra?
Biafra, yes. But however, we do not have to pay dearly for our belief system. Correct? Now, when people begin to look at it that way, give this 6 months, you see people rising to support you because of their children's future, because of their lives during the sit-at-home. You now realize that you have ended sit-at-home on Monday in education and health sector. Then, when you now enter market economy, the same people will support you because now you have won that battle 70%. The remaining 30% is a walkover. But in this instance, the people are seeing is that it's not about them. It is about what the government stands to gain. And genuinely, people are already angry with the government from whichever party, ruling party, whichever party it is. Nigerians have this trust deficit. And the more the government acts in this way, the more they concretize it within the hearts of the people that it has never been about them, but about the government. Victor Eniche, don't you think this one is more diplomatic and it will work?
Well, I think they should marry both approaches. I don't believe, in a one-sided approach in terms of problem solving. That's why I said while you're approaching this from this angle, you should also engage, just like you mentioned, engage in this angle. So you tell people, just like they say, when you beat a child, you bring the child back. You beat the child with the left hand, you drag him with the right hand. So you don't just say, I am authority, I am authority. Say, I am authority. Then say, but this
the authority is on the masses. It came from the masses.
You. So I'm doing this for you. So you need to also convince them that whatever authority,
it's for your benefit.
Yeah, it's for your benefit. So I think that is the best way that you can achieve a better result.
All right, very well. We'll go on a short break. And when we come back, We'll look at Osun State as the governor fights with a particular political party over local government autonomy. Do not go away. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Osun State chapter of the All Progressive Congress has accused Governor Ademola Adeleke of misrepresenting facts surrounding local government administration and federal allocations. The party chairman, Tajuddin Lawal, said the governor's recent broadcast distorted the legal status of council officials and ongoing disputes. Lawal insisted that APC chairmen and councillors occupying council secretariats were reinstated based on valid court rulings, citing a February 10, 2025 Court of Appeal judgment nullifying their removal. He dismissed claims of tenure elongation, explaining that pending cases before the Federal High Court seek judicial interpretation, not extension of office terms. On local government funds, the APC chairman denied federal interference, blaming delays on multiple litigations initiated by the state government and its allies. He referenced the Supreme Court's ruling affirming local government autonomy and urged Governor Adeleke to withdraw all related suits to allow statutory allocations reach the grassroots. What do you make of this story, Victor?
Yeah, I understand what the issue or the clash between the local government, especially for a state like this where you have majority of the local government,
from APC.
But I can't blame the governor completely. I blame the constitution. I blame our, how do I put it now? Because yes, the Supreme Court has given that the government has said, look, give the money to them. But what they've not done, that's now the
National Assembly.
Spelled out by amending the constitution as to say, this is how this money should get to them. It only says, give them their money. The question now is how. You've said give them their money, but you've not said how they are going to get their money. You've also said a lot of things. One of the ways to ensure local government autonomy is from the selection or the election. Even the constitution has not clearly stated this is how these people are going to come. The state government via the independent.
State sponsoring, handling local government elections were not addressed by the Supreme Court.
That's what I'm saying. The constitution has not clearly identified how this autonomy would be. Only mentioned, just like if I had given birth to say, go and win. But you have to speak the things that this is how the money will go from the fact, because if an autonomy would said from the FAC account, the local government account should be where the money goes into directly. And if that happens, I don't think anybody will have an issue with, the government. But it's because everything should go through the state accounts. That is why you cannot, we're having this issue. So for me, we should have a proper amendment from the National Assembly to ensure that this kind of issues, this kind of things are happening because of the loopholes, within the Constitution. The governor can go to court and influence some of these things because of the loophole in the Constitution. So I think the onus falls on the National Assembly to ensure that whatever has been passed by the executive, by the president, declaring autonomy, should be amended, properly amended in the Constitution, so that institutions would understand their roles, and the roles will directly not clash. Because right now it's clashing. You cannot give the governor money and tell him the money comes through him. He now decides how to share the money because it's still.
So now this is still tied to the National Assembly regularizing that particular Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy to make it a law,
yes,
right? That can be binding on the governors and local government as well. And the law will be very clear on local government independence, on how the money gets to them.
Yeah.
So that way it comes directly from the federal account to the local government, and there is nothing a state governor can do to stop that.
Absolutely.
I get that.
So that if that is done, I don't think we would have a case for issues like this where the governor would withhold. I mean, it's not just Osun State. There are a lot of states that some of them are not allowed because
or when they pay, they don't pay completely.
Yes, a lot of states do not get half of what is due them. I know that for a fact. But most times, why you don't hear the correct, because they are in synergy because the local government are the people with the state
They are still
government.
the voice
Yes.
of the state governor, who is their Oga.
Exactly. So you don't there's no complaint. The one where you see, as we used to say, a local balance. The one where you see, hold on, you know. So that's what is happening. So it feels like it's just but it's not just Osun State. You know. So because as it stands now, no state, no local government gets their money directly from the factory.
Now, I am wondering how local government, local government workers, how are they surviving?
Well, I mean, you know, unfortunately, our local government structure is not a solid one yet. We have a system where most of the people that answer local government staffs do not actually produce, do not actually work, do not actually have responsibility clearly spelled out. So most times, whatever they get, they see it as a privilege, because in most occasions, they have not valued or merited that payment. They do not, the amount of time they put in, the amount of resources they put in to do whatever job they do, they know that it is still not, you know, equal to whatever they have been paid. So people are quiet because they feel most times it's like empowering the people. So the reason why there are not much noises in the local government staffs is because at the end of the month, as long as they get paid, you know, sometimes they even stay months without, some local government would owe 2-3 months and then they pay. They will tell you they never pay or they will pay. Or so they are understanding with the government because of the balance of work, you know, and what you're being paid. That is why we're not hearing it. If you go some of the local government, some persons are on payroll. Sometimes even 50% of people on payroll do not actually go to work. You know, politicians sometimes use it to empower their people just so you have a government job, but they are not actually going to work. That's why you see a lot of, when people want to be sincere as local government chairman, you will see a lot of ghost names. Because there are some persons that even work in the state or some federal agencies that are still on the payroll of the local government, because then the local government sometimes they pay directly to them. You know, it's not like the federal where you can't work. So that is an issue that, you know, the value put in is not commensurate with what is written. So they don't complain because to them, I mean, it's enough. After all, imagine if in a month you go to work only 4 or 5 times and then you get paid 250,000 because you are engaged in another economic activity that is giving you money. So that's what happens most of the time. Some persons just relax, end of the month they get paid. Some of them are even the politicians working with the politicians in government.
More like using it to settle their boys.
So they just use it as. So that's why you see there are no complaints, because it's not commercial.
Right. So very well, in your opinion, a local government autonomy is yet to be actualized in Nigeria.
I mean, it's not. It's just in the formation stage. There's no clear picture as to what the autonomy is like.
All right.
So until we get to that point, you cannot, you know, clearly analyze whether or not it's good or bad.
It's truly autonomous or not. All right. Thank you very much, Victor Iniche. It's a pleasure having you today.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you so much, our viewers, for always staying connected to us. And this is where we wrap it up on this episode of Open Conversation. We are open for sponsorship of the program, advert placements, news, events coverage, and commercials. Watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. On Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network. You can also watch us on Avo TV, Niger TV, and Efastec TV platform. You can connect with us on our ATN socials by subscribing, like, and share. Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network. Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. And on X, Atlantic TV Net. Do not forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching. I am Laurentia Ugu. See you same time tomorrow. Bye for now.